Hi, I'm Louisa Willcox. Welcome to my podcast, ADHD and Money. I'm a money mentor for ADHD entrepreneurs with over 15 years' experience in the financial world. Having ADHD myself, I know how hard it can be to not only navigate this crazy entrepreneurial world, but also the challenges ADHD entrepreneurs have with managing money too. I know. You're probably thinking I'm terrible with money. I spend far too much. I'm just feeling out of control. I get told these things all the time. I promise you, you're not alone. But it doesn't need to be this way. This is my area of expertise. I've already helped countless ADHD entrepreneurs take control of their money, and I'm going to be spilling the secrets on how you too can do this. So let's get started, shall we? Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Wealthy. Now today I want to dive into a topic about whether it's our ego that's making us spend or not. Now I was asked this question last week whilst I was being interviewed on someone else's podcast, and actually it's the first time I've been asked this question, and I thought it was a really fascinating one. And it's really diving into why we spend. So is it just our ego that's making us spend, or are there actually something deeper in play? So I think it's really important we actually cover this topic. And I really want to explore how actual social conditioning and societal expectations actually drive our spending behavior. Because often it does this more than we actually realize. So in today's episode, I'm going to discuss ego. And I actually think this might change some of the ways that you really think about spending your money. First of all, I think it's really important we talk about ego, actually understanding ego and spending. Now, when we think of spending, which is driven by ego, we imagine splurging on luxury cars, designer clothes, and sometimes the latest gadgets. These are all the things that people buy that are quite big. Now, these purchases are often about making a statement, or sometimes showcasing our success, or showing that we've got tons and tons of money that you can afford them. Sometimes it isn't even funded by money, it can be funded by debt. But is it really the whole story? People think that ego can be a driver behind excessive spending, but actually, I honestly believe it's from social conditioning and the expectations from society that actually make us spend this way. When we go to school, we are taught a certain way. We are taught to comply. We are taught to go through the education system to get a 9-to-5 job. And if you're not a high flyer and you're not earning like all this money a year, that you're failing in life. And we have this expectation that we need to fit in. And you see it all the time. I remember when I was at school, people changing the way they are to fit into certain crowds. Like it might be that they wore more makeup, that, they'd hike the skirts up, or, suddenly become interested in something that they weren't really interested in. And I think we see this as we go through school. It's the need to fit in. And when we look at this within our spending, we have to go really far back in time, more likely to the caveman side, when it was essential that we had to be part of a group for survival. So when we were cavemen, cavewomen, we had to be part of a group to be able to survive, to be able to eat, to be able to live for warmth. And acceptance and fitting in were really important. If you didn't fit in to that group, you could be left to fend by yourself, and then you could be the weakest link. You could be pickings for predators. We had to fit in to survive. So it was really necessary for us to do the things we needed to be able to stay within that tribe, that group. And when we fast forward to today, in the modern era, this primal need for social acceptance still exists, but it manifests different now. We no longer need to fit it in to survive physically. We don't have to go and hunt animals anymore. You can literally, you go to a grocery store, a supermarket. But socially, the stakes feel just high because it's ingrained in our being. It's been ingrained in us for millennia. And it's really hard to then step away from that. But where we used to fit in for survival, now we try to fit in for other ways, and it appears different. So today, within our societal expectations and standards, we're bombarded with the standards of success and happiness. And that by buying those big things, by buying those luxury cars, or by trying to fit into a crowd that you want to get it in, we're having to spend the money to do that. So it could be like owning a home, having the latest tech, or even maintaining a certain lifestyle. It feels like benchmarks that we must meet to fit into the crowd, to stay within that group, to not be shunned, to not be left out on the outside, to be able to survive. And then obviously nowadays we've got the media, social media and advertising that actually amplifies these expectations. And it makes us seem like we're really failing if we don't keep up. So this pressure drives us to spend in ways that actually align with societal norms, even if it means stretching our finances. Because we have that deep ingrained belief to fit in, to want to do the things that we're taught, the things that we're conditioned to do when we are at school, when we're younger. It's a primal need. And our need for acceptance and belonging is really deeply psychological. And now this spending can be a way to actually gain social approval or avoid exclusion. Now, when we're looking at this, let's think about FOMO, the fear of missing out. This is a huge driver of spending, especially in the entrepreneurial space. With the age of social media, where everyone apparently seems to be living their best life, I especially hear stories all the time from people who felt compelled to spend just to keep up. When we see people putting out events, and we're not there, but a group of us might be, or a group of your friends, your entrepreneurial friends are there at an event and you're not there, and you have that FOMO feeling, the fear of missing out, it might drive you to buy a ticket and go to that event just so you are there. But when we're not aligning it with our business goals, this can be really detrimental. It's that psychological need to fit in. And that's what causes a lot of our spending. And it's really interesting because that question, is it ego that spends? No, I don't honestly believe it is ego. For some people, yes, it may be. But for most of us, I actually believe it's the way that we have been conditioned to be made to feel and think from a very young age, but it's also that primal and psychological need as well that comes into the modern life. We no longer have to be looking over our shoulders like we used to see if there's a predator. We no longer have to fend for food. It's literally on our doorstep. So our brain is looking for those things to make us survive, to make us fit into society, so we're not shunned. And this now it's spending. So we buy these things to make ourselves fit into the group. It's like buying a house. You're told that you have to, when I was brought up, owning a house and having a mortgage was like the thing to do. But is it really? It's a societal expectation because times have changed. The way that we live now have changed. More people travel, more people have freedom because we have more time and life freedom. We live in a digital age where you can you can work off your laptops anywhere in the world pretty much. We no longer have those same expectations, but we still have that need to fit in, to be part of the crowd. Because none of us like to feel different, right? But I think it's really important that we recognize when our spending is actually influenced by social conditioning and by that psychological factor as well. So some tips for you. Start by asking yourself, am I buying this because I really need it or because I'm feeling pressured to? Now, that pressure might not be from anywhere else. It might not be that someone's forcing you to buy it, but it might be an internal pressure that is subconscious that you don't even realize you are doing it. Personally, I do get FOMO from events. I struggle not being at events when I see so many other people there. But what I do is I create goals for my business, and I tell my clients to do this as well. Really think about what is it that you need to be doing in your business to move it forward. What is important to you? So now if I see something come up, I will go, right, okay, is that aligning with my business? Is that aligning with my goals? Is it something I need, or am I just feeling like I have to be there because everyone else is? Because then you're taking away that emotional part of it and you're making it more logical. So then you're spending more wisely and more consciously. It's really important that you set personal financial goals as well that reflect your values and not societal expectations. This is where financial literacy is really key, because the more you understand about money, the more empowered you'll be to actually make decisions that are right for you. And sometimes that can be stepping away from the norm. It can be stepping away from the social conditioning that we have been taught when we were younger. And this is going to make your life really powerful, the way that you are and the way you live your life. And that is when you start actually aligning your money to your own personal goals, when we move away from these feelings and we become more consciously aware of how we're spending and consciously aware of how we're living our life, that's how you step into your wealthy life. That's how you start living a life that really aligns with your values and the goals and the things you want to be doing. But sometimes we do need to step away from that norm. We need to break down all those things that we have been taught and shown to actually recreate them in our own way. And it's not always easy, and you need to do it one step at a time. But that's going to be key to the financial freedom. That's going to be key to your wealthy life and to living a life that really means a lot to you. I've had to do it within my own personal life and my family. And we've put things in place that actually to make our home lives easier. You know, I'm a special educational needs or a SEND mum to two neurodivergent children. I have ADHD myself. And the way that we live our life may be different to another family, but that's okay because it works for us. And the way we spend our money is going to be different to other people's families, and the way that maybe even you spend your money, because we as a family and I myself have different goals. We have things that we want to do that are different to you because we are all individuals. So it's really important that you think about how you want to be spending your money and really thinking about where it's going. Become consciously aware so that you're actually really enjoying it and moving away from that. So no, I don't really think it is ego that forces us to do things, because I don't even really believe that sometimes we realize we're spending in certain ways, and we all fall into this trap at times. But by becoming aware of those influences, you can actually make those mindful spending choices, and it's going to help you really pave the way into your financial success. Thank you for joining me today. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave me a review, because it really helps to boost up my podcast and get more people on and spread it wider. But make sure you stay tuned for my next episode. And until then, happy listening and thank you for joining me.